In today's video, I'm doing a May recap and June reset. Let's get right into it. Okay, so these videos pretty much go the same way every single month, but I'm going to start with the previous month, which is May at this point, and I'm going to do a little bit of reflecting. I will go through some prompts that I always go through, and I do recommend you use when you're journaling, reflecting, whatever you do at the end of the month. And I will also try to emphasize some slow living favorites that I had from the previous month, which includes experiences, products, anything in between. Then I will give you a quick tour of my Notion and how I set things up for June. I will also show you how I set my journal up for June, which is pretty minimal. You'll see in a second. And then I will go over what goals I have, some slow living goals that I have for June as well. Okay, so let's jump right into it. Once again, I start things off with my journal, and I've shown this journal so many times on the channel before, but it is a more traditional planner. It's not a bullet journal or anything like that. It's very much traditional in the sense that there's a calendar spread here, and then you go into the weekly spreads like this, and so on and so forth. So I really have been enjoying this structure. If you've been on the channel for a while, you'll know that I started off this channel doing a lot of bullet journaling things, but the structure of this has been very freeing, if that makes sense. But anyway, let's go back to May, the May calendar spread. And let's talk about some goals that I had for May and whether or not I accomplished it. So the first thing that I had was to put money away into my savings. I do that every single month, and thus far I have not failed, thank goodness. So that was a goal that was a success. I needed to purchase some clothing because I am attending a wedding in a different area. I'll be traveling to Mexico, and so I needed to get the clothing for that trip because that trip is in June as soon as possible, because I really waited for the last moment to order things, measure myself, send in the information, and then have it shipped and what have you. So there's that. But I did order the clothing finally, and things are trickling in with just like very short amount of time left before we head out to Mexico. So a win is a win. I also wanted to get through some things in my Q2 checklist, which I will show you once we get into that little mini Notion tour. I've talked about my Q2 checklists or my quarterly checklists in quarterly review videos. So if you want a little refresher on that, I do have a video from Q1 on the channel that you can check out. And then the last thing was to get a gift for a friend because my friend's birthday is coming up right at the start of June. And so I needed to obviously get the gift in May and ship it to my friend so that they would get it in time. And that was also a success. So all of the goals that I had specifically for May have been completed. I'm just going to cross out that last one because I didn't cross it out. And if you are curious about some fun things that I did, which this will probably segue perfectly into the slow living favorites that I had for the month. I do know that I went to a flea market, and I can't remember which, I think it was the 19th. I'll write that in so that I can remember that for next year. I also went to New York City for one day because I went to the US Book Show. That was like a work event type of thing, so that was fun as well. And then I did have some birthdays and stuff like that. So that was my May, kind of low key, but let's kind of segue into my slow living favorites for May because I think that was a perfect segue. The first kind of category when it comes to slow living favorites are products. So the first product that I wanted to share was this Blackwing pencil. So I'm pretty sure I showed this at a mini haul in a morning vlog somewhere along the lines during the month of May, but I'm actually now using it, and this is the first time I've ever used a Blackwing pencil, and I absolutely love this pencil. It's a very standard pencil. It may seem like it's not fancy at all, but if you know anything about Blackwing pencils, a lot of artists love that brand of pencils. I never really understood why, because every time I would see it, I would be like, that just looks like a regular pencil, but I now understand how lovely the lead just like glides on the paper. I don't know if it's my paper. I don't know if I'm like, it's a placebo in my head because I've known so much about Blackwing before I actually started using it, but it glides really well on paper, which allows for kind of like seamless sketches, and I can kind of keep my pencil on the page without ever needing to lift it up because it's so smooth. It feels good. It has like a substantial lead size. It's like a standard pencil, but just little nerdy things that I really like about it. I also like that the eraser can be pushed back more and more as you continue to use it, and then once it's completely finished, you can replace it. So that's really cool. That allows the most use out of a pencil like this. And I also like the little quote on the pencil, which I think is very slow living focused. It says, "One thing I can tell you is you gotta be free." And when I saw that, I knew that I wanted this Blackwing to be my first Blackwing pencil. So love this little thing. I know it's a little nerdy and a little niche, but if you're looking for a really quality pencil, I do recommend. I can finally recommend. And then the second product I will actually get up and show you. So let's go. Okay, excuse the appearance of it. It needs a good deep clean right now, but this is the Our Place Wonder Oven. I got this for Christmas. Ian got this for me as a Christmas gift, and it is one of the most used Christmas gifts I have ever had. I love getting kitchen items for Christmas gifts. But anyway, I love this Wonder Oven, and I particularly had this as a favorite for May because the weather is pretty much getting warm, and so I have been using this instead of my oven, which is a huge help for keeping the temperature down in the house so that I don't have to be blasting the AC while I have the oven on, which is what I have done in the past because it would just get unbearably hot in here. But now all I need to do is use this, and I've been able to bake, air fry, roast, reheat, toast, anything, honestly. And it has been keeping the house cool because it's a lot smaller. It's on the counter, and things cook perfectly fine in here. If anything, it cooks quicker in here, so that's even less heat happening in the house, which is really helpful, and I know I'm going to be using this all summer long. So I just wanted to show you really quickly. As you can see, you can air fry, bake, broil, reheat, roast, and toast. You can adjust a bunch of things over here as well, but I have been using this for toasting bagels, for reheating pizza, for cooking like full-on meals, for meal prepping for the entire week. I have been using all of these settings. My favorite setting is the reheat and the bake and the toast setting, but yeah, a huge favorite. Okay, I'm back. It's actually a few hours later since that last clip because I had a couple of meetings in between, but the next category in terms of slow living favorites from May is experiences, and I have one really positive experience that I had from May, and that was the Montclair flea market. So this is a brand new flea market that is coming into my nearby area. I live in North New Jersey, so I don't live in Montclair, but I live very close by. And so this flea market is now starting to do kind of events every season. The first time they ever did an event was just one time last year, and I think it was during the holiday time or something close to that. Anyway, they did one for the spring, and it was in May, and it was so much fun. They had so many more vendors. They did it outside, so I was able to kind of like walk around, browse, take a break, and then go back into things, get a coffee and stuff like that. And it was such a good experience to kind of peruse the space and meet people in my community, meet people who own local businesses, and then pick up things here and there, and also do it in a nice spaced out pace, if that makes sense, rather than kind of feeling rushed in a building and kind of going through all of the different vendors and making sure that I don't miss anything. It was nice to be able to take a break in between it. That's pretty much what I'm trying to say, and I think that is very adjacent to slow living. But also, I found so many cool things at this flea market, from handmade things to artsy things to thrifted and vintage things. I did actually a short and an Instagram reel of all the things that I thrifted and how I'm using them. So if you're interested in seeing that, there is a short/reel out there you can check out. But yeah, I found things like an ashtray. I found a vintage drum that I'm using as a pot stand, and so many other things. It was just really nice. But moving on to the last category of my slow living favorites from May, and that is reading outside. Now, the whole caveat there is reading outside. I was not able to do that for the beginning months of the year, obviously, because it was obviously more cold. But now we're in that weather where things are chilly in the morning, but not too chilly in the morning, and then it starts to warm up throughout the day. So I have been taking my book outside after I have breakfast and just reading, and that has been so nice because it's so quiet in the mornings. All you can hear are birds. I can just sit and relax, enjoy some fresh air, and read my book. I think I actually did a hobby vlog. You'll probably see that. You probably already saw it, or you'll see that tomorrow, and you can see a bit of that as well. So those are my Slow Living favorites from May. And now we're gonna jump into the little, very mini Notion tour for June. Okay, so this is going to be the quickest Notion tour ever. I'm only gonna show you a couple of things here because it's most relevant to the video. So the first thing is, this is my main page. This is what you would call my home page on my Notion. And so what I have right at the top, I felt like this was the most effective place to put this, is a master to-do list for my quarter. So the quarter that we're currently in is Q2. And so these are all of the kind of miscellaneous things that don't fall into a specific to-do list. These are just like miscellaneous things that I have here to make sure that I get them done within Q2. Okay, I feel like I've explained that before, so let's just move on. As you can see, majority of this list is crossed out. I think the last change has been this one. So as you can see, it was crossed out and it's crossed out in red. I'm basically using that as a key to identify the fact that I did not complete it. I more so just crossed it off and I'm not going to do it, as opposed to things over here where I've completed it. I've actually finished it, and that's why it's not in red. Okay, moving on. The things that I have not done yet, and I have June pretty much to get completed, is to start making casual video content on TikTok. So that is something that I'm going to try to do in June. I don't have high hopes for this, not gonna lie, and you'll hear about that when I talk about my goals for June. So I don't know if this is going to get accomplished. The next thing, which I also don't have high hopes for, is to accomplish 5-3-30, which is basically like an exercise routine. It's I keep forgetting this. I think you go at a 5 incline, like a 5 setting on your treadmill incline, at 3 miles an hour, and then for 30 minutes. Don't think that's going to happen, but we'll see. I have the month to figure that out. The next thing is to assess newsletter content. As you can see, I put a note to myself, past me put a note to do a survey in June, so that's happening in June. If you are part of my newsletter community, you will get a survey sometime in June. And then the last thing, as you can see, it's in yellow. So it says look into podcast ads and promotions. And I wrote a note to myself saying that I'm going to postpone this to July, which is Q3. So it's no longer relevant in Q2, but I didn't want to cross it off like this because this means that I'm simply not going to ever do it. Instead, I just want to carry this over into my Q3 master to-do list, which will happen very soon. Okay, so that is one of the main things that I wanted to show you. I think the second thing that I wanted to show you was my house projects. Now, this one I wanted to share because I do have some things happening, or was supposed to happen in May. When you're watching this video, it's June, so I have not completed it, but maybe I can get it completed right at the cusp. So we'll see what happens there. You'll probably see this in my June/Q2 video. But what I have not completed just yet is I'm looking for a decorative ladder to put into, it says closet storage, but it's really for the bedroom. I want a decorative ladder to put in the bedroom, and I just haven't found the right ladder. So that is why it's not 100% complete. Although while I'm talking to you, it's sort of not making sense for me to get a decorative ladder because if you saw in my last monthly video, I have a huge like clothing rack in there. So it doesn't make sense to have a huge clothing rack and a decorative ladder, which would most likely put clothing onto. I think I might cross this off, y'all. I don't think I need it. And so with that being said, that means the closet storage is complete. So I'm going to mark this as complete. Did not expect to do that, but there we go. Okay, complete success, and I did it before the deadline. For reference, it is May 29th. The next thing, which I'm definitely not going to get done in time, but maybe I can get it like right in the first week of June, but I'm trying to get some living room decor to kind of fill up the space since we have some opened up space in there right now. And so I made these notes to myself. I said the left side of the room needed more height because everything is kind of leveled. So I put tall plant question mark. Maybe I'll get a plant. But I mostly want to get a large framed piece of art. I'm trying to thrift this instead of purchasing like a piece of art elsewhere. Mostly because I want something thrifted and I want something that looks vintage and cozy and, you know, nature vibes in there. So I'm still looking for the right one. I have seen some, but I haven't found the right one, which is why this is taking mostly so long. And I would much prefer to get the large framed art instead of a tall plant, to be honest. And then the right side needs a lamp, question mark. I don't know if it actually needs a lamp, but I have seen a lot of Pinterest inspo photos and a lot of people put lamps next to like their little reading nook. So I felt like, why not? So question mark on that, although I do have lamps already. So if I do end up deciding, I already have it in the house. So not a big deal. And then the last thing is an ottoman. I want to get an ottoman or like a footrest for my little reading nook that I have with my swivel chair. And once again, I cannot find the right one for me. I'm still on the search. So maybe I'll find something in the upcoming weeks, but if not, not a big deal. I will say I am happy that I was able to mark this one as complete, so a win is a win. And then the next things are coming up in the summer and the later months. So I think that's pretty much all I wanted to show you in my Notion, just those two sections. I hope this is a good view into seeing how low maintenance my Notion can be. While there's so many things in here and it was a lot of setup that kind of gradually happened as time went on, it really is low maintenance when necessary, if that makes sense. And I think that hopefully I'm able to depict how simple it is to be able to use Notion and it doesn't have to be overwhelming. But that is all. Let's get back into the rest of the video. Okay, so I hope you liked that tour, even though it was very tiny. Of course, it's going to end up being tiny because there's less to show if I show you every single month, if that makes sense. But we are going back into my planner here because we are going to go through our monthly reflection. Now, I didn't do my monthly reflection just yet because at the time of me recording this video, it is still May, and I try to be as close to the end of the month as possible because I do these monthly reflections with Ian, and he's very adamant on making sure that we do it right at the end of the month. So that's why I wait. And we like to do them together, so you know, it just ends up working out that way. But I will go through the prompts and then I'll probably give you a quick rundown, a general overview of my responses before I actually put my responses down when I do them with Ian later on this week, probably at the same time that you're watching this video. So the first prompt is my top 3 accomplishments. So what I usually do is I go back into the month and I look through every single week and I see what I've done, as well as looking at that checklist that you saw in the Notion tour and see what I find to be most significant. I think one big thing, and I know this is kind of like a strange thing to have as a positive, but I feel like I got a lot of answers when it comes to my health this month. I have had a lot of health scares this past month, and just seeking those answers and being proactive and trying to find answers and trying to set up a plan for myself in order to be healthier moving forward and avoid emergencies that I've had quite often in May is a huge deal, and in the positive sense. So I'm able to kind of look at that in a more positive perspective now because I am getting closer to a more comfortable space when it comes to dealing with these health issues. So I will put that down as an accomplishment. Another thing that I would say is an accomplishment is getting the clothing for this wedding that I'm attending in June. I am not gonna lie, I'm usually so good about planning things and making sure that I hold myself accountable for certain things when it comes to planning, especially when it comes to travel, but I have been slacking so much when it comes to this particular trip. I don't know why. I don't know why, but I think I got the biggest headache out of the way, which was getting clothing for this wedding. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but it is an Indian wedding, so I needed to get very special pieces for the wedding because there's multiple days that I'll be attending events and there are specific attires that I need to be, you know, dressing up for. So I would say that's an accomplishment. I would say the last accomplishment is kind of coming out of my comfort zone a little bit and going to New York City for a full day. I attended a full day event in the middle of the week. I believe it was a couple of weeks ago. I went to the US Book Show, and I'm not usually one to head into New York City in the middle of the work week, but I took a chance and I put myself out there and I networked at this event and stuff like that, or I networked as best as I could. And so that's just not something that I typically do or feel super comfortable doing as an introvert and someone who likes to work from home and thoroughly enjoys their work from home experience. So I would say that's an accomplishment as well. Okay, next prompt. How do I feel about long-term goals? So now I flip into the back where my long-term goals are, which is just my yearly goals, and I take a look at them and I just assess how I feel about them. So when it comes to these goals, I don't want to be super repetitive and read through everything like I always do. So I will just say that I feel really, really good about my long-term goals because I feel like month over month, I have been pretty consistent with achieving a lot of these goals, such as, putting money into my savings, clearing up my skin, which by the way, I don't have to do too much now because I've set up a system for my skincare that works really well. I've talked about that on the channel before, dedicating time to hobbies, focusing on YouTube, things like that. So I am moving along really, really well when it comes to these goals. So I feel good about it. And then the next prompt is my focus for the following month. So in June, I do have travel coming up, so that's probably going to be my biggest focus. But adjacent to that, I feel like a big focus is going to be making sure that I get all of my content done, planned, prepped, ready to go while I'm on vacation. That is going to be a big, big challenge for me because I tend to leave things last minute. I'm not gonna lie, at least when it comes to filming and editing my videos. I'm sure you all know that, but it's going to be a big challenge in June to kind of do things before and afterwards because I'm going to be gone for quite some time. So that's going to be my biggest focus for June. Upcoming challenges is exactly what I said, so I kind of prefaced that. And then the last prompt is how do I overcome? I think I'm going to just be really, really adamant, really, really strict with myself when it comes to preparation. I have already set up some blocks on my calendar to make sure that I am going through every single checklist that I need to go through when it comes to whatever category in my life, and just making sure that I cross things off that checklist because I do tend to push things out week over week sometimes depending on what it is, and so I have to be really strict with not doing that, particularly this month. I can be really strict, I can be really focused and determined. I'm telling myself this, I'm reminding myself this, so I can do it. I can do it for at least 1 month, be super, super consistent in one full month. So wish me luck on that, but I think that's what my June is shaping up to be. When it comes to my goals for June, I'm going to keep things really, really simple, really, really loose. And I know it's going to be the end of Q2, so it's kind of hard to be able to do that. It's going to be hard to be loose on my goals knowing that I'm going to be at the end of a quarter and I should probably be wrapping up and finishing up goals. But at the same time, I know that's not realistic given all of the things that are going on in June. So I think what I'm going to try to do is balance that as well. So like in the very first week of June, which is probably like right now, my camera stopped recording while I was in the midst of talking. So I don't even know where I left off. I think I was talking about like focusing a lot on the beginning and the end of June to get things done so that I can have a more seamless, balanced, kind of relaxed middle of June because that's when all of the things are happening. So I'm gonna leave it at that. I completely forgot what I was talking about in my mini ramble anyway, so I guess that's fine. But that is going to be the end of this video. Thank you so, so much for hanging out with me today, kind of resetting everything and starting fresh and getting ready for a new month. I hope you're excited for a new month. I hope you're excited for the start of summer. I'm not gonna lie, summer's not my favorite time of the year. It's probably my least favorite time of the year, but I will say, and I'll probably do a separate video on this, I have had one of the best springs. I know I had a lot of unfortunate things happen this past spring, some things that are just like once in a lifetime unfortunate, but I will say on the positive side of things, I had a really, really good spring. I really embraced spring for what it is, and I had a really great time. So I am hopeful that summer is going to be pretty much the same. I'm hoping that I'll have the best summer of my life, at least in my adult life. Now that I dislike summer, maybe we'll get a little bit of a shift there with my seasonal slow living practices. But feel free to let me know some of your wins from May. I would love to celebrate that with you, and feel free to let me know what you're working on in June. Thank you again, and I will talk to you in next week's video.